Why general knowledge won't make you rich. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that may surprise you. Knowledge alone is not power. Let me repeat that. Knowledge alone is not power. It's a common lie we've all been sold. Sounds noble, sounds wise, but it's not the truth. If knowledge were power, every schoolteacher would be a millionaire. Every professor would be a tycoon. Every librarian would have financial freedom. But they don't. Why? Because general knowledge is not enough. It doesn't matter how much you know. What matters is how you use what you know, and whether it applies directly to a clear, specific purpose. That's the difference between general knowledge and what I call specialized knowledge. And that difference, my friend, is the difference between talking about success and building it. You see, general knowledge is scattered. It's wide. It's impressive. But it doesn't build anything by itself. Specialized knowledge is focused. It's directed. It's tied to a definite aim, and that's what makes it powerful. Let me give you an example. A man can know the history of the Roman Empire, the height of Mount Everest, and the capital of every country on Earth. But if he doesn't know how to turn any of that into service, value, or strategy, he will remain broke. Meanwhile, someone else may know only one thing but know it deeply. And if he applies that knowledge toward a specific purpose, with action and persistence, he will succeed where others merely admire their own trivia. So the question is not, how much do you know? The real question is, do you know something specific that the world is willing to pay for? Can you solve a problem? Can you do it better than most? And are you using that knowledge toward a clearly defined purpose? Because that's where power begins. Let me go further. You don't even have to personally possess the knowledge, as long as you know how to organize it, direct it, and apply it. Some of the most successful people I've ever studied were not the smartest in the room, but they were smart enough to gather experts around them. They didn't memorize everything, they mobilized people who did. That's the secret of leadership. You don't have to know everything. You just have to know what needs to be done, and how to bring the right minds together to make it happen. That's specialized knowledge. And it's your responsibility to find it, gather it, and use it. So today I challenge you, stop chasing random facts, stop admiring how much you know, and start focusing on what knowledge you actually need to reach your specific goal. You can start poor. You can start uneducated. But if you are willing to learn what your mission demands, and apply it with discipline, you will rise. Because in this world, people are not rewarded for what they know. They are rewarded for what they do with what they know, and how specifically they serve others through that knowledge. That's the beginning of specialized knowledge. And that's the beginning of real power. A diploma won't make you rich, application might. Let me speak plainly. A college degree is not a guarantee of success. In fact, it's often mistaken as one, and that's where many go wrong. I've met men with walls full of framed diplomas and empty bank accounts. I've also met men with no formal education, but with minds razor-sharp, focused on one purpose, and they built empires. What's the difference? The educated man often mistakes schooling for learning. But schooling ends when the ceremony is over. Learning never stops. Success doesn't care about your credentials. It cares about your capacity to gather useful, relevant, and applied knowledge. Let me say that again. It's not about what's in your head. It's about what you do with what's in your head. The world is full of well-educated failures. Men and women who know theory, can recite data, quote studies, but don't know how to make any of it move a business, solve a problem, or create real-world value. And why is that? Because they were trained to absorb, but never taught to apply. Specialized knowledge doesn't mean you memorize more. It means you target your learning. You learn what matters for your goal. You become a surgeon of the mind, cutting away distraction, drilling into exactly what your vision requires. If your dream is to build wealth through real estate, why are you buried in economic philosophy? If your aim is to launch a product, why are you wasting hours reading theories of innovation instead of talking to customers? Stop studying life from the bleachers. Get into the game. Study by doing. Learn from failure. Test ideas in motion. Let the marketplace correct your assumptions. The most powerful knowledge you'll ever gain won't come from a book. It will come from observation, experimentation, and correction. Do you know who always wins? The man who asks, "What do I need to know right now to move forward?" and then finds the answer fast and uses it. That's specialized knowledge in action. So don't be discouraged if you weren't top of your class. Don't be embarrassed if you don't have fancy credentials. Be proud if you're willing to learn what your mission demands. Because that humility, that hunger, that clarity will take you further than any diploma ever could. You must become a lifelong student, but a student with a mission, a learner with direction, someone who studies not to impress, but to progress. Your learning should be tied to a definite purpose. And every day you should ask, what knowledge does my dream demand of me today? And then go get it, apply it, refine it, use it. That's how you turn information into income. That's how you make your mind an asset, not just a storage room. Because in the real world, what matters is not your degree. It's your usefulness. And usefulness is always built on specialized knowledge, acquired with purpose, directed by vision, and applied with persistence. You don't have to know everything, but you must know how to get it. Let me relieve you of one heavy burden. You do not need to know everything yourself. In fact, trying to become an expert in everything is not only exhausting, it's unnecessary. Real intelligence isn't about knowing all the answers. It's about knowing where to find them and who can help you apply them. Some of the most successful men in history were not the smartest people in the room, but they were the best organizers of knowledge. They surrounded themselves with talent. They built networks of specialists. They didn't try to be the entire orchestra. They were the conductor. And that is leadership. If you have a clear goal and the specialized knowledge to support it, either personally or through others, you can move mountains. You don't need to memorize law to build a successful business, but you need a good lawyer. You don't need to write code to launch a great app, but you must know what result the code must deliver. You don't need to be a tax expert, but you must know what numbers matter to your bottom line. So here's the truth. You can borrow knowledge as long as you lead it, organize it, and apply it toward your definite purpose. This is why your ability to coordinate intelligence is more valuable than trying to store it all in your head. Successful people are not necessarily those who know more, but those who build systems where knowledge flows to them as needed. You don't need to own the library. You need to know which book to pull at the right moment. And if that book has legs, wears shoes, and has a name, even better. In the business world, this means building what I call an intelligence network. People you can call on when you need clarity, perspective, or expert input. But don't just collect contacts, connect them to purpose. Gather people not because they're impressive, but because they are relevant to your mission. Respect their knowledge. Learn from them. Leverage what they know with humility and precision. Now, some will ask, but isn't that using people? No, it's working with people. When your vision is clear and your goal is valuable, you attract others who want to be part of something bigger than themselves. And that's not manipulation. That's collaboration. Every great achievement in history was the result of minds working together. Specialists, thinkers, doers, all unified by a leader with a burning desire and a definite plan. So don't waste time trying to become a master of every trade. Become a master of direction. Become a student of clarity. And become a leader who brings the right minds to the right table at the right time. That is the highest use of specialized knowledge. You are the architect. You don't need to make every brick, but you must know what's missing and how to fill the gap. Gather knowledge like a builder gathers tools, each for a specific task. And never forget, the greatest tool you have is your ability to coordinate. If you stop learning, you start losing. Let me be clear. Specialized knowledge is not something you get once and keep forever. It must be renewed, refreshed, updated. Otherwise, it becomes obsolete. And obsolete knowledge is as dangerous as ignorance because it gives the illusion that you're prepared, when in truth you're falling behind. In the world of achievement, yesterday's knowledge will not win today's game. We are living in a fast-moving world. Industries evolve. Technology changes. Markets shift. And what worked 5 years ago may no longer apply. So here's what I tell every serious student of success. You must make learning a habit, not an event. Just as the body needs food daily, your mind needs fresh insight, new information, sharper perspective. Without it, your ambition starves. You can't afford to be static. You can't say, I already know this, and shut the door on growth. The moment you stop learning, you start shrinking, not just in skill, but in opportunity. Think of specialized knowledge like a living currency. If you keep it circulating, it gains value. If you lock it away and forget about it, it depreciates. Let me ask you, are you still relying on strategies that worked 10 years ago? Are you trusting old habits to solve new problems? Are you defending outdated knowledge out of pride instead of upgrading it with humility? Then beware, because the world is not waiting. Your competitors are evolving. The marketplace is changing. And your goals are growing, are you? The most successful people I've studied never stop learning. They read. They ask. They explore. They challenge what they know. They understand that specialized knowledge has a shelf life and they treat it accordingly. And you must do the same. Make it part of your daily rhythm. Learn something relevant to your goal. Study someone who's already achieved it. Stay curious even when you think you've mastered it. Success is never owned, it is rented, and the rent is due every day in the form of learning. This is not about academic degrees. It's about active discipline. It's about using your mind as a tool, not a museum. You don't have to chase every trend. You don't need to know everything about everything. But you do need to stay sharp where it counts. Ask yourself daily, what do I know that's no longer true? What don't I know that I need to? What have I been avoiding learning because it challenges my comfort zone? Growth begins where your comfort ends. And the act of updating your knowledge is a declaration. I refuse to become outdated. I choose to stay relevant. I commit to growing. If you want to remain effective, respected, and results-driven, keep learning. Because the only real security in this world is not money. It's not status. It's not who you know. It's the ability to adapt through specialized learning again and again. Knowledge becomes power only when you use it. Let me share a truth that most people never realize. Knowledge does not pay dividends until it is organized and applied. You can read every book, take every course, attend every seminar, but until you put what you've learned into motion, it has no value. Let that sink in. Unused knowledge is just mental clutter. Only organized, directed, applied knowledge becomes power. This is where most people stop short. They gather information but never shape it into a plan. They admire what they know but never use it to build anything. And then they wonder why results never come. But I'll tell you why. Because knowledge alone is passive. Action is what gives it life. The key is to take your specialized knowledge, no matter how small, and link it to a definite purpose. Let me say it another way. You don't need to be a genius. You just need to know something useful and then apply it toward a goal that matters. Knowledge by itself is potential energy, but it becomes active energy when tied to a clear goal, a definite plan, and persistent execution. That's the recipe. Every time. Let's break it down. You gain specialized knowledge about a skill, let's say marketing. Great. But now what? If you don't create a plan to use that skill for your business, your career, your brand, then what's the point? If it's not directed toward a purpose, it just sits in your head unused, unproductive. But the moment you say, I will use this marketing knowledge to grow my company by 40% this year, and you back it with a plan, now it starts working for you. Now your brain sees a target. Your actions follow. Your thinking becomes sharper. And your learning accelerates because now it has direction. This is the big mistake I see people make. They confuse learning with doing. They spend years preparing but never deploy what they've gathered. You don't need 10 more years of knowledge. You need to take what you already know and organize it into steps that move you forward. That's what specialized knowledge is for. It's not about having facts. It's about using facts to move results. Let me put it bluntly. If your knowledge doesn't produce results, it's not yet power. And if it's not producing results, ask yourself, do I have a clear, definite aim? Do I have a plan to apply what I know? Am I taking consistent action? If the answer is no, then your knowledge is just potential. And potential doesn't pay the bills. Applied knowledge does. So today I challenge you. Take inventory of what you know. Look at your skills, your experience, your insight. Then ask, how can I apply this right now towards something specific and measurable? Create a structure. Turn knowledge into a system. Attach it to purpose. And move. Because power isn't in what you know. Power lives in what you do with what you know. You don't need all the brains, just the right ones around you. Now let's go one level higher. Maybe you say, Napoleon, I have a goal, but I don't have the expertise I need. I don't know enough about finances, or marketing, or law, or management. That's fine. You don't need to be the expert, you need to know how to lead them. The greatest achievers I've studied were never one-man shows. They were organizers, coordinators, strategic thinkers who knew how to build teams of knowledge around a vision. The truth is, specialized knowledge can always be acquired. And if not acquired personally, it can be assembled. Let me repeat that. You don't have to possess all the knowledge, but you must gather those who do. And you must organize them toward your definite major purpose. That's what I call an intelligence mastermind. Not just any group of people. Not just a network, but a focused alliance where every person brings a specific type of knowledge. And you, as the leader, unify that intelligence for a single aim. Think of Henry Ford. He didn't know how to build every single part of an automobile. In fact, he was mocked for what he didn't know. But do you know what he did have? He had a push-button desk, and at the push of a button, he could summon engineers, lawyers, accountants, and designers. He surrounded himself with knowledge and directed it like a general leads an army. So don't waste time trying to know everything. Invest your time into becoming a better organizer of knowledge. Ask yourself, who do I need around me to accelerate this goal? Where can I find minds sharper than mine in this field? How can I present a vision so compelling others want to contribute their expertise? You see, people with specialized knowledge are not hard to find, but they are selective in whom they serve. They don't follow confusion. They follow clarity. So if you bring a clear goal, a definite plan, and strong leadership, you'll be surprised how many people are willing to join you. And that's where synergy happens. That's where progress multiplies. Because now you're not growing alone, you're growing with combined intelligence. Let me be even more practical. If you want to build a company, don't try to learn every function yourself. Build a team with someone who understands branding. Bring in someone who understands finances. Find someone who knows your customer better than you do. Then you coordinate. You direct. You lead. That's how specialized knowledge scales. It moves from what I know to what my system knows. Because ultimately, you are not paid to know, you are paid to deliver results. And results come faster when you learn to mobilize the minds of others. So don't make the mistake of isolating yourself in pursuit of knowledge. You'll move faster with collaboration. You'll go further with focused delegation. And if you're bold enough to gather knowledge, whether from books, people, mentors, or experience, and apply it toward one vision with clarity and consistency, then nothing can stop you. Beware the trap of endless learning without action. Let me offer a word of caution. Not all knowledge builds. Not all learning lifts you up. In fact, there's a dangerous kind of learning that quietly destroys dreams, and most people don't even recognize it. I call it the trap of the eternal student. You know the type. They're always studying, always preparing. They read every book, watch every lecture, attend every workshop. They know the theories. They talk the language. They collect credentials. But there's just one problem. They never do anything. They're caught in the illusion of progress. They mistake motion for movement. They believe that someday, when they've finally learned enough, they'll be ready. But that day never comes. Why? Because they're addicted to safety through study instead of growth through action. Now don't get me wrong, I am not against learning. But I am absolutely against learning as an excuse to avoid risk, decision, and execution. Knowledge is not the goal. Results are. You don't get paid for how much you know. You get paid for what you do with what you know. The marketplace rewards application, not accumulation. Let me say it plainly. Specialized knowledge without action is a mental museum, impressive but useless. It is better to know one thing deeply and act on it than to know 100 things and act on none. Some of the most successful men I've studied were not the most educated, but they were the most decisive. They learned fast. They learned on purpose. And then they moved. They knew that experience is a teacher far more brutal and honest than any book. And they embraced it. So ask yourself, am I learning to move forward or just to feel productive? Am I hiding behind another course, another book, another mentor? Am I delaying action in the name of just a little more knowledge? If the answer is yes, it's time to break that pattern. You already know enough to start. You already have the resources to take one meaningful step. And that step, no matter how small, will teach you more than another 6 months of theory. Start messy. Start unsure. Start anyway. Because once you begin moving, you'll see what knowledge you actually need and what you don't. And more importantly, the knowledge you gain while acting will stick deeper, hit harder, and serve you longer than anything you learn in a vacuum. Let me remind you, you don't need perfect information. You need enough information to move with purpose, then adjust as you go. That's how real achievers operate. They don't wait for 100% clarity. They move at 70% and let feedback sharpen the rest. And when you live this way, you discover something powerful. You stop chasing knowledge for the sake of learning, and you start harvesting knowledge for the sake of building. That is the real purpose of specialized knowledge. Not to make you feel smarter, but to make you more effective. So stop stalling. Stop preparing forever. Stop studying your way into stagnation. Use what you know. Test it. Apply it. Let it shape your next move. Because specialized knowledge becomes powerful not in theory, but in motion. And motion is the only thing that turns vision into value. Create a strategy for learning with purpose. Now that you understand the difference between motion and movement, now that you know learning alone won't make you rich, let me ask you, do you have a personal strategy for what, when, and how you learn? You see, most people learn reactively. They stumble across books. They follow trends. They consume whatever appears in front of them. But this is like trying to build a house by picking up random tools with no blueprint. If your goal is clear, your learning must be intentional. Every new piece of knowledge should be tested against one question. Will this help me reach my definite goal faster, better, or more efficiently? If the answer is no, leave it. Because in the pursuit of success, not all learning is equal. Some learning is urgent, some is foundational, and some is just distraction wearing the mask of productivity. You must become ruthless with your focus. Here's what I recommend. Build your personal learning plan. Start with your definite major purpose. Define it clearly. What do you want? By when? What do you need to know to make it happen? Identify the specific knowledge gaps. Ask, what do I currently not know that this goal demands of me? List the most efficient ways to acquire that knowledge. This might be books, mentors, online courses, apprenticeship, direct experience, even failure. Allocate focus time to learn daily. Just 30 focused minutes per day over 1 year makes you an expert in most areas. That's over 180 hours, targeted, deliberate, and purposeful. Immediately apply what you learn. Reading is not learning. Doing is. Teach it. Test it. Build with it. Fail forward if needed, but move. You are not here to impress people with how much you know. You're here to achieve something meaningful. And to do that, your knowledge must serve your purpose, not distract from it. Let me tell you what I've seen in those who succeed most. They're not always the most talented, but they are the most clear, the most focused, and the most committed to learning only what matters. They don't drown in information, they drink only what nourishes their mission. If you don't build your own curriculum, someone else will do it for you. And chances are, it will keep you average. So don't just collect content. Curate it. Sharpen it. Connect it to your aim like steel to a sword. You don't need 10 certifications. You need the one key insight that unlocks the next door. And when you approach learning this way, when your mind is guided by vision, not vanity, you become unstoppable. Because you're no longer wasting energy on what's popular. You're investing energy into what's relevant. You become a builder, not a browser. A producer, not a spectator. A focused student of your own future. And that is how specialized knowledge becomes the most valuable asset in your entire life. Specialized knowledge attracts people, power, and possibility. Let me tell you something remarkable. When you begin to move with purpose, when you apply specialized knowledge consistently, when you align what you know with what you're building, the world starts to respond differently. People notice. They feel your certainty. They respect your clarity. They begin to trust your direction even if they don't fully understand it. This is no coincidence. Specialized knowledge creates magnetism. Why? Because most people drift. Most people dabble. They don't know what they want. They don't apply what they've learned. They don't speak with conviction because they've never built anything worth believing in. But you've taken the time to think. You've defined your aim. You've organized your knowledge. You've tested it through action. You've made it real. And when you do that, you develop what I call intellectual gravity. You begin to attract collaborators who see your vision clearly, mentors who respect your discipline, opportunities that fit your focus, results that amplify your belief. It's not luck. It's not magic. It's alignment. When your mind, your message, your knowledge, and your action are all telling the same story, you become a force. You don't chase people. You attract the right ones. You don't beg for resources. You begin to generate them. And all of that begins with knowledge, but not just any knowledge. The right knowledge, applied the right way, for the right purpose. Let me be practical. If you're building a business and you speak with the clarity of someone who knows exactly what they're doing, you don't have to beg people to invest, to join, to support. They come to you. Why? Because people follow confidence, and confidence comes from earned knowledge. Not theoretical. Not assumed. Earned. Through experience. Through testing. Through application. Specialized knowledge builds that foundation. It becomes your internal proof that you are the real thing. That you've done the work. That you didn't skip steps. And in a world full of noise, that makes you stand out. Now here's something else. The more you apply your specialized knowledge, the more you refine it. You begin to see patterns others miss. You simplify what others overcomplicate. You move faster because you've cut out the irrelevant. And people love clarity. They pay for clarity. They trust clarity. So what does this mean for you? It means your knowledge isn't just helping you build. It's helping others believe. Your depth becomes their confidence. Your direction becomes their invitation. That's how you rise. Not by shouting louder, but by thinking clearer. Not by being everywhere, but by going deeper where it matters. And you must protect that clarity. Don't scatter your focus chasing trends. Don't dilute your message to please everyone. Don't abandon your system when it gets hard. Stand strong in what you know. Continue sharpening it. Continue applying it. Let your work speak for itself. Because when you do, you'll find that doors begin to open. And behind them are the people, places, and moments that take you further than you could ever go alone. Knowledge is power, but only when you lead it. Let's bring this all together. You now understand what separates the dreamers from the doers. It isn't talent. It isn't luck. It's not even education in the traditional sense. The difference is this. The successful man identifies exactly what he wants, and then learns exactly what is required to get it. He doesn't drown in information. He doesn't study endlessly without purpose. He doesn't hoard knowledge like treasure. He uses it. He refines it. He applies it with strategy, focus, and fire. That's specialized knowledge, and it is one of the cornerstones of all success. Now I must remind you of something critical. Knowledge is only potential power. It becomes real power only when it is organized into definite plans of action and directed toward a clearly defined goal. If you're still waiting to feel ready before you act, let this be your wake-up call. You will never feel ready, but you are far more equipped than you realize. If you simply start where you are and let experience teach you the rest. The man who rises in this world is not the man who knows everything. He is the man who finds out what must be done, learns what he must learn, and moves forward with intensity and resolve. That can be you. It's not about being perfect. It's about being willing. Willing to learn. Willing to unlearn. Willing to organize what you've gathered and put it to work day after day. So what do you do now? You begin building your knowledge system. You write down your major goal. You identify what knowledge that goal demands. You acquire it personally or through others. You test it in the real world. You adapt, evolve, and stay sharp. You repeat the process for as long as your ambition lives. That's the mindset. That's the method. That's how you separate yourself from the crowd. And let me say this. No man ever became successful by accident. He became successful by learning on purpose. So don't wait. Don't wish. Don't wander. Decide. Direct. Discipline. Deliver. That's the process. If you truly want what you say you want, you will not avoid learning. You will not resent the work. You will not cling to old ideas that no longer serve you. Instead, you will build a mind that is sharp, purposeful, and powerful. Because once your mind becomes an asset, everything else follows. Wealth follows. Confidence follows. Opportunities follow. And most importantly, fulfillment follows. Because nothing feels better than knowing. I built this. I earned this. I studied what mattered. And I applied it like my future depended on it because it did. That, my friend, is what separates noise from legacy. And now the choice is yours.